Hello, everyone. Hello from London. So, it's been about 2 months since I've done these Q&As, which are usually supposed to be monthly. Sorry about that. And that is because I have been gallivanting around New York and Berlin. And I finally made it to London, where I have a house and I can relax and get to all of this. So today's Q&A is on dating as a worker and Dom. So you have been asking me questions over the last 24 hours and I am going to answer them. There's quite a few good ones, so I'm going to try to speed this up speedier than I normally even do them. So, shall we go to the bottom first, maybe? If you have any questions, please do so in the question box down the bottom. All right, I'm just going to go in order of the things that are coming up rather than picking things. So they may be a little low quality to begin with, but I'll speed through things. Do you only date subs? No, I am open to switches and service tops and also primal tops, but experience has shown me that these are probably the people that are most suited to me. People who purely express themselves as dominant and do not do either of the topping that I just mentioned generally don't work very well with me. All right, next question. How can you find like-minded people when it comes to dating workers? So as in people to date or fellow workers who want to date? I actually haven't dated a fellow worker, and that is like something that I would like to potentially be able to experience, as then I wouldn't have to explain a lot of things. And also there's probably some shared commonalities that would make the relationship potentially easier in terms of communication in some ways and in terms of potentially empathy as well. But yeah. But of course, those are on varying scales and dependent upon how long people have been working and how successful they've been, and obviously the other things that people are battling in their lives. But when it comes to finding like-minded people, even people who aren't working, it's just a matter of being as transparent as I possibly can to begin with, and that, kind of cancels out people fairly early if they can't deal with it. That's how I personally deal with it. There's probably many other ways. When do you bring up the fact that you are a worker to a potential partner? So for me, I lead with that. So on the apps, I'm verified on the apps. So if you see me on any of the dating apps, make sure that it's verified, because there's a lot of people out there also who are pretending to be. When do you bring up the fact that you're a worker to a potential partner? I try to put this profile on my app so that people are aware from the get-go of who I am and the fact that I'm a worker. Otherwise, I will bring it up if I think it appropriate in any initial interaction, not only with people who I'm dating, but people who are friends or my personal trainers. If I think it relevant or amusing or interesting enough, I bring it up very early. I would rather that it not be something that I hide, of course within reason, because there are things that we need to think about in terms of safety, unfortunately. So again, this is how I do things, not necessarily how other people do. All right, so next question. Okay, all right, interesting. This one's interesting. How do you know if you really love a client enough to move the relationship to partner? So for me, the way that I run things with my clients, my subs, is actually already on a relationship basis. So the people who come to see me and who do get to see me now, especially for my multi-day engagements, it's always people who have been through a very long applications process that includes a huge, massive form, as well as a lunch, as well as an induction kind of period. And so we form relationships. These are relationships. And they came through a professional angle, but they are actually all my partners in a particular way. And because that said, there's not that many of them because I'm not able to juggle that many people, obviously. But they are my partners. However, before this current format, when I was working in a dungeon, when I was working a little bit more on a 2-hourly, 3, 4, 5, however many hour session basis, Yeah, that kind of happened once where I thought about transitioning one of these clients into a more partnership based thing, and it was got very, very confusing. So I do enjoy the people who come to see me, the people who apply to see me, the people who I play with in that capacity, and I generally want to have relationships with them. And so I think my format is better suited to me now. Whereas before doing the hourly thing and then finding somebody sweet and transitioning them, it was far too complicated for me to manage. Okay. Okay. How do you communicate your expectations with someone from the beginning for a female-led relationship? So the thing is that all relationships are going to look a little different from each other because individuals are different and the interactions between us are going to be different. And time shifts things as well as maybe other partners that come in and fulfill different needs. So how do you communicate your expectations? So how I do things is that I like to have a conversation in terms of what people are kind of into, the experiences that they have had, whether they're looking for anything in particular, and maybe that conversation can start to get deeper and deeper as we move on. However, yeah, super clear expectations. I think the only thing that I really, really need from the beginning is transparency and ability to communicate what it is that they're desiring and for them to be able to understand me. I think those are my general expectations. And then all the little things such as protocol, such as the kinks that may or may not work for us, they can kind of emerge as we go along. If you have any questions, please ask using the question button, the little question mark button down below. Otherwise, I'm just not going to catch them in this. So, yes. Have you ever dated a sub or slave? Yes. Most of the people who I have now in my relationships are submissive, or switches. Yeah, I wouldn't say that there are vanilla people that I have in my fold that are partners. It's just not on my agenda anymore. Oh, this is interesting. Is it ethical to be on dating sites to attract customers? Who am I to determine the ethics of that? I would say that you need to be careful because there are definitely a lot of sites and apps that do not encourage any soliciting of any form. I'm on there for personal reasons, so yeah, it's something for you to decide for yourself. Okay, what has changed most of all after you left the vanilla life? I'm just going to add what has changed the most after I left the vanilla dating life? I think I value myself a lot more, and I think that I am able to communicate my needs much clearer because being in this work, working as a Domme from a top perspective, I have learned how to negotiate really well. I have learned how to recognize my edges and when I reach them, and I have learned that speaking up is the best thing, even if it ends things, because that means that the progression is the way that it needs to be. So I think that I've become much better at dating. And yeah, that's probably maybe the biggest change. Let's see. Okay. Do you think it's possible to live a full DS relationship, 24 hours, 7 days a week? Yes. Yes, I do so. That does not mean necessarily that high protocol is in effect all the time, potentially, because there are probably some public scenarios that would deem that not possible. However, you could have also thought of particular protocols within those scenarios. So, I mean, I do it. I do it. I think when it is your personality, that is just the natural progression of how a relationship is. So I think it's entirely possible, depending on the personalities that are involved and the struggles that they may or may not have with those personalities within themselves. All right. Do I prefer male or female subs? I have no preference. do you exclusively date subs or turn them into bottoms during the date? I don't exclusively date subs, but like I mentioned earlier, switches are probably best. And people who are leaning towards at least the service capacity are much better suited to who I am. Do I turn them into bottoms during the date? I think because of how I like to play, how I like to tease verbally especially, it's very hard for me to not take a top teasing at least position when I do meet people and even with friends. So I wouldn't say that I turn people into bottoms necessarily, but I think it's very difficult for me to turn off the things that I enjoy doing. And a lot of those come from a perspective that are from the more dominant direction. Let's see. Okay, let's delete some of these crappy ones. Do you wear latex for your partner? I wear latex for me. And then, yeah, actually, I have a latex fetishist that I am dating at the moment, who I do adore. And the way that they light up when I am within latex and the things that I may be doing with certain latex objects, that is very encouraging. So it really depends. I think if somebody genuinely has that drive and I share it, and I can see that come from a wondrously desperate place within their eyes, then I am very encouraged. However, there are things that I simply don't enjoy that I simply will just not do. But that's a mutual interest, and so that kind of works. Okay. Let's see. There's lots of extra doubled up questions. Do you always keep your dominant persona when dating? I would say that when it comes to, so I'm not sure what you person who asked the question understands to be a dominant persona. I think a dominant persona is very rich, or maybe you just mean whether this dominatrix Mistress Ava O persona. That is me. I don't really have a work versus personal persona. It's kind of all one for me. So I guess in my case, no, but also understand that when it comes to a persona or anybody who is like in the personality a dominant, that is a very rich place, and it's not necessarily a place that is always authoritarian. It can also be coming from a very soft, maybe even mommy perspective, and it can also, you know, have definite vulnerabilities that maybe need to be held sometimes. So I would say that I'm all those things, and I have no problems expressing those with the people who I date if they deserve that and if they can hold that. Let's see. So today's questions are all about dating as a worker and dom. So please ask me questions about that as opposed to latex back beds, which I do adore. Okay. So what are you looking for in a man that I'm dating as opposed to a woman or otherwise? What are you looking for in somebody that I'm dating? I kind of answered this a little bit before, but I would say that somebody who is at least a little bit aware of where they're coming from, their personality, the things that they're into, that they are able to communicate those things, that they are able to communicate any limitations, any uncomfortable points that they might have with me, with themselves. A good communicator, essentially, and also somebody who can empathize with me as well as themselves, who are kind to themselves. I think those maybe are at the top of my list. In terms of anything else, I can be open. However, people who are not at least leaning towards kink just don't work with me right now, I think. Yeah, they would have to be at least leaning. So I would say those are the top kind of things at the moment. There's lots of people asking whether I date subs exclusively. I've already answered that. Watch the beginning. So, you speak of an inner circle. Is that your dating partner? So how does that dynamic work? Yes, I would say that is, my inner circle is, when I say it in reference to the Mistress Ava O work, it's the few subs that serve me who are living everywhere, and I see them usually monthly. And how does that work? So it works in that they are all coming at me from a sub or slave perspective, and they are there when I need them, whether that's emotionally, whether that's financially, whether that's logistically, especially. There's a lot of logistics that make my life happen, and I'm very grateful for especially Em at the moment, who is helping me set up all of these international travels. I don't have to think about it. I think it's fabulous. So the dynamic works well. And it's a lot of work, you know. We keep in touch, we look out for each other, we spot things about each other that might need help, and it's real quality relationships that are communicative, that are vulnerable, and yeah, that's kind of how those things work for me. And the people who I'm dating at the moment, have they moved into this inner circle? One of them in Bali has, and they are also very, very kind to be looking after everything of mine in Bali right now. Thank you so much. But yeah, aside from that, it's just dating at the moment. Okay. All right. Also, slightly doubling up. Your personality is naturally dominant. Is that a role prerequisite for your dating? I would say that somebody has to be accepting of who I am. And enjoy it. Like, not only just accepting. I've definitely been dating some people who are like, I accept who you are and what you do, and that's kind of not enough. I like grand enthusiasm. And so yeah, that's more than a prerequisite. I think that's something that they need to really appreciate and love and share an interest within. Yeah, for me. Which is interesting. How do you balance your subs and your sexual relationships? They are sexual relationships. Maybe not penetratively so, as according to traditional structures, but they are definitely, they have aspects that are sexual, and they have aspects that are nice and everyday, you know, like, like all. So let's see. Did someone you went on a date with want to become your slave afterwards? I mean, I go on dates where that is the premise. So, if you mean a vanilla person who wanted to move towards that, I think I've met vanilla people who wanted to move towards submission. Yeah, that happens. And you meet people who are totally turned off by it. You know, that's just how it works. So I just try to be clear from the beginning so that I don't waste my time. And off of that, is it possible to have a vanilla relationship and extreme kink sex life with the same person? Yes. I mean, if you're going to have a relationship with somebody, you're going to, you know, have to do some very vanilla things. And I don't know, to be frank, I'm very lucky in that my subs and my slaves look after so much of my vanilla stuff that I don't necessarily have to deal with it. But okay, so for example, maybe meeting family. You're not necessarily going to be doing anything open. Maybe you're wearing a discreet collar, maybe you're going to be in chastity or something. But for the most part, you know, meeting family can be a very vanilla experience. And when you are reaching those levels of relationship and you want to share all of these aspects of life with each other, then yeah, there's going to be time where that's just going to be the natural outcome of sharing time. If you have any more questions, please ask them using the question button below. So, and then when you get home from said family outings, okay. What is a good cover for the partner's family so they won't ask too many questions? So I have been leaving it up to the partners to decide whether they want to be open about what I do or not. But if they are not open, it does tend to limit how much time I can spend with that family, because I am not somebody who likes to make up stories or lie. It's just not really part of an interest of my personality. And so, yeah, that would limit the relationship. My family understand what I do, and yeah, I have had partners whose families also know and don't ask too many questions. And I've had some friends whose partners' families know and ask a lot of questions. So it's really diverse. In terms of cover, it's going to have to be something maybe that you need to be happy following through on. When I have always been in a position where I was quite transparent and open, so I'm not able to really share anything. But if I can think of something for the people who I don't share it with, who are not that close to me, I have other businesses that I reveal. So maybe something that is concrete, so you have something to talk about. Yeah, all right. Oh, and on that, what date number do you tell them you're a sex worker? Me, date 0, before they arrive, ideally. Yeah. I just don't want to waste my time, with people who are hung up about it. And unfortunately, even when you are clear about it, people do reveal in time that they have issues, because I guess they also do learn more intimately about what things entail, and maybe they are just too confronted by that due to their own limitations on their sexuality and the limitations of society. Let me definitely impress that point. So I like to do that before I even meet them. Yeah. And I'm very transparent about the details of what I do and how I do it. And yeah, and I try to choose strong enough, exposed enough, quick enough, smart enough partners who are able to keep up with the explanation and the exposure to that. Does your partner get jealous from your job? So I have a few partners. I think they're not necessarily jealous of the job, but I think what they're jealous of, and jealousy is a very natural emotion for all of us, yeah? Is that the time that is shared that maybe is not necessarily that is not necessarily with them, especially when they're missing me. And you can definitely experience a sense of compersion where you're going to feel happy for the other person, but at the same time, there can be craving to share time together. And I think that's where jealousy tends to emerge more than off the job. Okay. Let's see. So many questions. Wow. Look at all of that. Okay. Let me just try to get through them as fast as possible, right? Are you polyamorous or monogamous? Polyamorous. Oh, I like this one from Madam Nina. Do you think vulnerability is the sexiest thing in a relationship? Yes. Yes, because it exposes all these little inner workings that you can start to toy with when it comes into a sexual context. And it also can mean a sense of emotional closeness that I personally really enjoy. Thank you. That was a very beautiful question. Thank you. Another question on expectations of my dating partner. I answered that earlier. Oh. This is prying, but I asked for prying. What would the sex be like? Can I answer that here? So sometimes the sex ranges from extremely vanilla to extremely kink and like zero penetration, and not of interest at all. So it really depends on the dynamic. I have a very wide range of interests. And so it depends kind of what the shared interests are. I have somebody who it's primarily a latex exchange, for example, and there is nothing really else. And so, it really, really depends. This is interesting. What's the youngest age that you would date? I think it's good to stay within some legal structure, but also I think it's more important for me that they are... and the thing is, when it comes to the job and the industry, it's actually a wonderful way for me to filter, because people who are able to kind of push against societal limitations and understand or want to understand are, advanced enough mature enough, challenged enough within their minds to try to understand it or do understand it, then I would say that that is my breaking point. And that can be somebody who is towards the end of their lives. It could be somebody who is very young. It really, you know. So, I got another one on age. Okay. Do you find it tough to balance your personal relationships and your subs or clients? How do you manage both? So for me, the people in my life, I treat them all the same. I really don't see many people in a professional capacity. And so I have been able to kind of level the playing field, so to speak. So everybody earns their time with me. Everybody earns a spot with me, and vice versa, right? And so I wouldn't say that these things look different. I think that people earn that time and they are in front of me as much as they deserve it. Yeah. And that doesn't matter how I met them. And I just make sure, I guess, I keep tabs that my needs are being fulfilled. And as long as they are, they're in front of me. Yeah. Do you have a personal slave? Yes, I have a few. Do you do any work with your significant other? Yes, sometimes I bring people in. Okay, this is another question on the two sides. How does the work side flow in, vice versa? For me, professional route, personal route ends up in a very similar space within my heart. So I would say that it just merges for me in personal. This is interesting. What is the hardest thing about dating as a worker and Dom? What is the hardest thing? I don't know. I feel like I have been very lucky to have found many people who are willing to share their time, their energy, their space, their dedication with me. And so I'm not running short of all these needs to be fulfilled. I think the hardest thing was getting to where I am. Yeah. Because the integration of the understanding of my worthiness when it comes to my identity as those worker, as the Dom. It really took some time and some effort, because the world tells you that these things are not okay, that a woman who speaks their mind should shut up, and that it's obnoxious, that workers are invalid in so many ways. And so I think that coming over those prejudices that are bombarded on us from all of these angles, and coming to realize how valuable that these traits that I've learned from these particular things, especially, to get to that place, unfortunately, was the most challenging thing. It was like overcoming this internal sort of stigma. Yeah. And I'm at a good place now, but it definitely took community, and it took an education, and it took experience, and like real deep physical experience to understand how valuable my role is for the people in my life. And how valuable it is also for the world. And so that would be the hardest thing. Not dating necessarily itself, but for me to get to that self-awareness and level of self-appreciation even. Yeah. So let's see, lots and lots of doubling up. This is one that sometimes I talk about with my friends. Do you find men are more intimidated to date you? I also date women, yes, by the way. Due to you being it says dinner, but I assume that it means Dom. So do you find men are more intimidated to date you because I'm a Dom? I find that a lot of more people are intimidated by me when I am free in my personality. So even before I understood the concept of what a dominatrix was, what a Dom is, I was always a personality that didn't necessarily need shallow validation, and also was quite forthcoming with my opinion, and that is very challenging for a lot of men, it seems. And so I think I've always been intimidating to those particular men. But this is not, to say that I haven't found a lot of people along the way who absolutely respected it and or loved it. And so, yeah. However, I wonder sometimes, like, when people think about committing and then they don't, how much that is due to their feeling of intimidation, or whether it is to do with their prejudice. Maybe I should make that more of a conversation that I have with people. How long have I been going for, everybody? Half an hour already, my goodness. All right, let's just do a few more, even though so many of these. Okay. Does your work interfere with your own sex life? It's all my sex life. It contributes to it greatly. I will leave it at that. All right. Ooh, have you ever had to deal with judgmental partners? Well, they're no longer the partners, are they? I would say that I am open to opinion and thoughts and conversation, but blatant judgment with no interest in a communication, it's not of interest to me, whether it's friendship, whether it's a small exchange, and especially not somebody who I would consider a partner through life. No, thank you. How does a life partner cope with my job? How do I cope with their lack of my job? All right, so that's how I'm going to answer that. Would I date a more dominant person than me? How do we rate dominance? I think that I only have, especially women friends, who are practicing DOMs, like pros, and I love them. And I would say that I'm closer to them than I am even some of my partners. And I value them more than some of my partners. So I would say that I have absolutely no problems being in proximity and loving people who are of a dominant nature. I don't know, dating, however, I haven't necessarily dated somebody ongoing from that capacity. Would I be open to it? It depends. So when people are service tops, it works well. But if there are things that are not aligning, then yeah. So I think it's more than just how people identify, but also about where their kinks lie and where their needs lie. Yeah. So that's like a murky kind of question for me, because the complexity is really, really large. Whew. Worst encounter with a potential partner. Worst encounter with a partner was divorce. Oh, yeah. I like this question. Is it difficult to distinguish between true attraction for you or the fetishization of your dominant persona? So I actually enjoy a little fetishization of my dominant persona. That look that somebody gets when you are saying something from an authoritative position, or when you press them up against a wall and watch them melt. That is kind of relenting to the dominant persona, isn't it? And I like that. So I want them to be attracted to that, and I want them to place it in high regard, because that is where my kinks lie. If it didn't, then I would probably have a problem with that, right? There are things that people fetishize that I have no interest in, and they're desperate for, and I'm like, meh. So yeah. That's it caters to my kink. All right. Let's just do 7 more minutes. Take it to 45 minutes. Would you still use all your dominatrix toys or moves in a relationship, or is that just for subs? Yeah. Yeah. If they are appropriate, and I feel like it. Okay. Let's see. Ooh. Some people asking for dates. All right. Let's. Another question from Madam Nina. Nina, I like how you think. Is stupidity a hard limit to you when it's time to date? Stupidity. I mean, what does that mean, right? Moments of stupidity can be amusing. If people just can't keep up intellectually and who are able to rationalize, comprehend things within themselves, look deeply. Maybe looking deeply is the most important thing for me. And I would say the lack of that would be kind of stupidity to me. And that would be really, a hard limit. Because it just makes having relationships with those people so much more difficult, you know? I don't need to waste more energy. All right. Okay, all right. I'm going to scroll through. Only a few more minutes left. So this is all about my dating life, yes? Not about your dating lives. Oh, all right. You're also asking me lots about let's do that another time. Let's do your dating lives another time. How about that? Okay. All right, so this is quite specific. Have you ever had an ethical, non-monogamous relationship where the dynamic has developed from casual to more serious or prioritized? How did, and then the rest of the question has unfortunately gone. How did I manage it, I guess? So I guess, for me, I try to practice non-hierarchical as much as possible. And I let things emerge as they deserve, and I let them deprioritize as they also deserve. So I just make sure that, I kind of answered this a little bit earlier in something else, but I just make sure my needs are being met, and as long as they are in a continuous fashion, then my time and energy naturally, I'm lucky, will increase. And if it does not, it naturally decreases. So that's kind of just checking in with myself and how I'm feeling and whether I'm getting my needs fulfilled and letting that reflect in the energy that I put in. That's kind of how I manage everything. Okay, maybe. Oh, so many questions. People asking again about dating. There's so many. You're clogging up my feed, dating people. Again. All right, so I think actually we may have gotten through, because you're all kind of doubling up on things. People asking me to travel, irrelevant. Again, the dominant question is coming up quite a lot. Like whether I would date a dominant. That's interesting. Why? Are some of you offering? Make a case for it. Why don't you? Oh, look at you. Look at these people offering yourselves. Okay, all right. So, do you consider yourself polyamorous? How do you negotiate from a Dom perspective? Yes, how do I negotiate that from a Dom perspective? So I kind of just went into the fact that I just check in with myself all the time. And how do I negotiate from a Dom perspective polyamory? I'm just as clear as I possibly can be from the beginning in letting people understand that there will always be multiple people who serve me. And keeping people in the loop and maintaining those relationships as best as I can. And and so that's just kind of how I run things. I wouldn't say that I have to negotiate it in at a later stage. It's just about being very open with where I am at the very beginning. So yeah. Okay, all right. So one more question. Let's see. I think, okay, yep, I think we got through a lot of good ones. And that's it. Oh, this is cute. Do you find it hard to find playtime with your personal partner? With my personal partners? No. Is it spontaneous or more so scheduled intimacy or playtime? A bit of both. A bit of both. Sometimes I have things in mind where I will organize like a gathering or, you know, a certain location. And so then obviously it's more scheduled. Whether they know or not is another thing. And also sometimes just moments of intimacy come up. And that's just how life is. So on that, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. You were so excited about this particular topic, which is why I spoke really fast through all of the questions as much as I could. And I'm dating quite a lot right now because the world has opened up. I'm vaccinated and I'm traveling again. Over the last 3 months, I've been in LA, I've been in New York, I've been in Berlin, now I'm in London, I was in Bali. And I plan to go to France and Iceland after this and then back to the UK. And so, yeah, I'm out there. And so dating is at the forefront of my mind. As well as I just got interviewed for something with Inside Hook on dating as a worker. And there are some lovely little quotes from me on there that some of you might have seen in some of my stories already. Otherwise, I'll post it again after this as well, so you can have a little read. So that is kind of why I decided to do this particular Q&A topic this month. And I think since I'm in the house again, I will, I'll get to another Q&A next month. Get back on schedule. How about that? Q&A 31. Think about what the theme should be, or maybe I should do another one of this. Or maybe you can all put all of your dating requests in and I can rate them. Maybe we can do that. That could be quite fun. Okay, thank you so much to everybody this month that I'm going to be seeing in London. I can't wait to see you. I'm so happy. I'm going to be speaking at the Wilderness Festival. I'm not sure exactly what time slot they have me on, but I will be speaking at the Wilderness Festival next week. So if you come by, please look for me on the schedule and find me and watch me speaking with Adrena Angela and so Connor from Paraphilia Collective. We're going to be talking about sex work in the future. And yeah, London, I will see you and ravage you all month long. Thank you very much, everybody.